Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel. My name is Adi and today we have another team report from the European International Championships and I am joined by two incredible players. I am joined first and foremost by Francesco. How are you doing?
Hi, man. Hi, guys. I'm doing fine. Ready for this interview and happy to be a part of it. So, yeah.
Yeah, it's glad to have you back on the channel. Do you want to tell everyone a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, okay. So, I am from Italy and I play VGC for quite a long time. I started in like 2011, back when I was just a kid. And then I took it more seriously in 2017 when I started competing in official tournaments. And then last year I started doing my first majors. And yeah, so now I'm competing in Europe, in the Europe area. And yeah, this is pretty much what I've done in the last years. I won some online tournaments, some pretty big ones. And yeah, in while I did top eight in Liverpool in the major tournaments, that is the best result I got. And yeah, so these are my highlights for now. Yeah.
Yep, and of course NPA champion on the puppies along with me. So
Also,
uh,
yeah,
we,
yeah,
we
and
got
we
that
are, yeah, we
biggest
are,
accomplishment.
uh, exactly, yeah, probably yes, yeah, probably.
And then, of course, I am joined by a player who got top four at the European International Championships. I'm joined by Lex. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me. Yeah, no, top four at EUIC was a real experience, and it was my first event, and I just had an absolute blast.
Yeah, it's a really incredible performance with a really incredible meta breaking team. But I guess first, you want to introduce yourself.
Yeah, so my name is Alexandrea. I'm technically a pretty OG Pokemon player, just not in the VGC. I started playing the TCG in 2008, and I played up through 2017. And I played in a few worlds, and I was pretty active in the community. And then I took a break, starting in 2018. I went out to college, and then back in December, I just graduated last year, and in December I decided, oh, I'll just get Scarlet Violet, play it for nostalgia's sake. And then I found out that there was an in-game ladder, and I get addicted to those things pretty easily. And so I started looking up some videos of how to team build, how do you play, basic principles. And eventually, I got a little bit more serious about it, and I kind of decided, oh, I kind of want to compete again because I'm just feeling it. And so UIC was my first event, and I prepped really hard for it, and it went really well. So I'm so happy about it.
Yeah, really, really incredible run for. Is that this is your first VGC event?
Uh, Technically, I played in like a few way back in the day, like for
Okay,
fun, but first VGC Masters event, yeah.
that's absolutely insane. And to get top four at the biggest tournament maybe ever for now. I'm not sure how this compares to Charlotte, Orlando. Those were pretty similar numbers, but one of the biggest tournaments ever. Really, really incredible. And you guys, I genuinely think, had a really, really crazy team. Everyone kind of wrote Dondozo off going into EUIC, and you guys built it in a way that was really incredible, and of course got two slots in top four of EUIC. So talk to me about why Dondozo and how you approached team building for this tournament.
Right. So I'm obviously a pretty new player, and I'm not a very experienced team builder. So when I was approaching Regulation C, at first I started try to build my own stuff. None of it was really working. I wasn't really getting anywhere. So I figured, tried and true strategy. I know that has existed in VGC and has worked before is taking a team from a previous format and adapting it into the new format. So I looked for successful teams in Regulation or Series Two, Regulation B, and the team that caught my eye the most was Neil Patel's uh, Vancouver top eight team, which was Glamora Dragonite, Dozugiri Bundle, and Great Tusk. And the reason this caught my eye is because I was a big fan of Glamora, and I just really liked poisoning stuff, and it was a very simple strategy. You poison stuff, you swap out a Dozo, you toxic spell them, and you win the game. And for me, very straightforward. It was really something I could easily accomplish and execute and have good success with. But I'm not a big Great Tusk fan, so I basically said, "Oh, which Ruin do I want to play around?" And Champao doesn't really fit too much because and Wuqian doesn't fit, and you know, really, what Ruin does fits on this team. And personally, my playstyle wise, I really like offensive Pokemon that can kind of have like a semi-hyper offensive approach. And next to Iron Bundle, I figured, well, Iron Bundle, Icy Winter Great Tusk to pop off with Headlong Rush and Close Combat. The Pokemon that makes most sense to me would be Chi-Yu. Chi-Yu allows the team to have really good coverage with Iron Bundle, and it just lets you put on a lot of offensive pressure on turn one. And so we settled on that 6, and I quickly got to like the top of Showdown, and I basically messaged Neil and I said, Neil, your team with Chi-Yu is really, really, really good. And he said, yeah, I think so too, because he had also been playing around with it. And so that kind of led me to think, okay, I kind of fallen onto something pretty good here. And around that time, I started coaching with Chuppa and improving my fundamentals. And eventually, right before EUIC, he expressed interest in the team as well. And so when he started expressing interest in the team as well, I really was feeling even more and more confident in it, because if someone I've gone to coach me is expressing interest in a team that I've adapted from Regulation B, I have to have stumbled upon something. And so Choppa introduced me to Carson Confer, and Carson was someone that had taken the team from my many, many games on Shonen where I had accepted open team sheet. And so we started to work on it. And so, when we get into the actual tournament report, I'll break down, some of the leads versus some of the common teams. But when we were tweaking the team, because really a lot of the sets are similar to ideal sets, we changed Dragonite to be a choice band Dragonite to exert a lot of offensive pressure on people. If you sit a Dragonite in front of someone, you just kind of click E-Speed, they kind of have to deal with it, or they're going to lose Mons left and right. And Chi-Yu was just a super nice fit again, because it's next to Bundle, you can sit next to Glamora. It gives Tatsugiri a really, really nice endgame that Tatsugiri previously did not have. But Dondozo, and why do we think Dondozo is the call for EUIC? And really, it's because the most common team is Palance. We all know Palance is everywhere, and basically all Palances were dropping Clear Smog, and they were all opting for just Haze, Palafin, and Intimidate Cycle to counter Dozo. And so Carson originally took the team for me because he said, your team was the team that had the best matchup into balance that I could find that was a Dozo team. And when we were testing it, at one point in the group chat, I just said, guys, why don't we just run Oblivious? What do we need to Unaware for? As there's basically no setup. Setup is kind of completely gone. Nasty Plot Goldango has fallen off the map. And Dondozo has also kind of fallen off the map. And that is really what you need Unaware for, setup and the mirror match. So we tested Oblivious, and we found out, okay, if the Palance players don't have an answer other than Haze, it is like a 60-70%, I'd say, favorable matchup for two evenly matched players in favor of our Dondozo build, because they can Intimidate Cycle you. And so that's where we got Oblivious from, and it worked really, really well. Grass Terra is kind of pretty standard to get around Rage Powder and Spore, and Parasteel Tatsugiri for late game E-Speeds on it. We went for a very offensive Dragonite. And then the Glamora is just really good into regular stuff that isn't, balanced, because again, Amoonguss does pose a big problem for it. If Francesco, you want to talk a little bit more about the specifics that we did at the very end, go over right ahead.
Yes. Yeah. So for the team building process, I met Alex because I was talking to Chappa, and at some point I told him that I wanted to play Oblivious Dondozo because I didn't see the reason why not to. Just for the reasons that said for Alex, and so he introduced me to Alex, and we started working. On the team on Monday. I got based on Monday because we met literally the week of the UIC. So I started playing with the team because I had a different version, but was really not really good. But the idea were similar, and also the Glimora stuff that I also played in Utrecht. So and I had Dondozo, Glimora, Tatsugiri, Iron Bundle, and I had King Gambit and Great Tusk, but the principles of the team are really much the same. So I felt pretty confident with the team as soon as I played it. So then we started refining the details basically, because the team was pretty much it, and everyone had a lot of confidence with it, because I played a ton of games in Series 2 with the previous version, so I was kind of used to playing it. And so at the end we opted for a much faster Dragonite, if I believe, if I remember correctly. Yeah, because we wanted to outspeed really a lot of Arcanines that were below 132, and also like win the speed ties, all the speed ties that are not really much speed ties around versus Chien-Pao plus Dragonite teams that could really help sometimes because sometimes you just cannot bring those also it helps to have faster Dragonite. And also a big one is outspeeding Palafin because they pretty much never go over 130 pretty much. So yeah, and then we dropped for a little bit of bulk and a little bit of attack because we figured out we didn't need that much. So this spread takes Moonblast by Specs Fluttermane. So we stuck up with it, and then the last details were also Iron Bundle Stereotype, and I believe the Earth Power on Glimora was one thing that we decided like a day before the tournament or 2 days before the tournament, but because there were a debate where some of us play Sludge Bomb, and I was one of the guys who wanted to play Earth Power, and I believe also Alex was one of them. And in the end, we decided to play Earth Power just because we didn't like being walled by Steel types. Pretty much, that is also a pretty common Terra type. So yeah, because if like everything that does not take poison damage gets super effective damage by Earth Power, that is poison and the steel. So it felt like a pretty good choice. And for the Iron Bundle, Ice type, Terra type, that was I think maybe it felt overlooked by most people that look at the team, but it I think was one of the things that made the team really like dominant against the balanced teams because it allowed you to go for a Chiyu switching and pick up the KO on Among Us. That was pretty surprising for our opponents because at that point we would just trade our Iron Bundle for their Among Us, and once they don't have like the Pollen Puff backing them up, because like it takes 4 hit KO from Earthquake with the Citrus Berry, so it would just like heal up all the team and also do a pretty considerable chip damage with Pollen Puff. So once we get rid of the Among Us, we can just win with Dondozo staying water type, and that was really great because like water doesn't get hit pretty much by anything from that team. And yeah, so you can win also by Terastalizing Iron Bundle that won me some rounds. And yeah, that was something that turned out to be really good. And yeah, the Terraghost and Chiyu, yeah, we decided to stick with the Terraghost. That was just previously there because just of fake outs and Drain Punch from the Iron Hands. And yeah, so that's pretty much it for the team building process. And then I think we started just testing outside of the ladder. We just started testing best of three in open team sheets format on simulator. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and you went into detail about a lot of the Pokemon and their sets, but I definitely have some questions about some of the more unorthodox things that you chose. In particular, your Glamora is really bulky. It's a bold nature, a lot of defense investment. I think you mentioned before we started recording that you in the GC you played a weakness policy Screamtail and lived a like +2 Psychic Fangs crit or something crazy like that. So tell me about why you chose to run this Glamora set and as compared to like a more traditional set.
Well, we have a lot of damage on the team. Dragonite has Choice Band, Chiyu and Iron Bundle kind of just pump out damage. Dozo just is all about dealing damage. And so we need a safe switch. We do need a safe switch. Glamora can be a fairly safe switch. And also Glamora, when it's so bulky, it can be opponents really don't expect it. They kind of expect if I hit it with a super effective move or I double it with 2 moves, it'll drop. When I say my Glamora has lived Shadow Ball Dark Pulse from Chiyu, my Glamora has lived Close Combat Brave Bird from Tusk, Talonflame, it can live a lot of that with the right rolls or just straight up without any rolls. And so it's very deceptive, and it gives you a Pokemon that really is only there to serve as a chip and absorb hits kind of Pokemon, whereas the rest of the team just needs to have that space to do damage, and Glamora can provide that by providing support with Mortal Spin, and it still picks up KOs on Pokemon that are weak to it. Like Iron Bundle will drop to a Power Gem, and Glamora will live a Hydro Bump because we're Assault Vest. So Talonflame will drop to it. if Gilmore tears an energy balls, it'll drop a Tusk. If you tear it into a grass in front of a Paladin that gets cheeky and wave crashes, it's gonna drop it, or at least deal 90%. And so this Glabora does as much damage as it needs to while being ridiculously tanky, and that's kind of why we went with this set.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And then the other thing that you often see on teams is you actually see Focus Sash Tatsugiri and Choice Scarf Chiyu, and you actually reverse those two. You went for Focus Sash Chiyu and Scarf Tatsugiri. Tell me about why you chose that item configuration.
Yeah, so this is my opinion. I'm pretty sure everyone else agrees with me 100%. Focus Sash is the best item on Chi-Yu, and there is no question about it. This thing procs every single game. Every game. And even if I had 252 invested into HP and all that bulk, it would still die to the hit that it's going to die to. So we need Focus Sash. We absolutely do. Versus Chimp-Out Dragonite is absolutely mandatory because if, let's say, you start Chi Bundle and they start Chimp-Out Dragonite, that's not the greatest start for us because Bundle gets dropped by a Terra normal E-Speed. What you can do, you can double protect. Let's say they lock in a normal move. Okay, you can Terra Ghost. You're guaranteed to live a Sucker Punch and get a Heat Wave back up. You can swap Bundle out into Glamora, which takes the E-Speed really easily. And all of a sudden, you've got a Heat Wave off on Chimp-Out and Dragonite, and they just dropped you to your Sash. But now you're in a favorable position. Or versus Dozo. Dozo Oko's Chi-Yu, regardless of the hit. Or unless, if you're Terra Grass, I guess. But then we have to burn the Terra on the Chi-Yu, and really we only want to do that against Fake Out and Extreme Speed. We don't really want to burn Terra against that. Because we have the Sash. Sash lets Chi-Yu stick around longer. Your bundle gets more free strikes off against their opposing Dozo. Sash lets you win the 1v1 in the end games where Pokemon's faster, but you've dealt chip, and you can just overheat, and it just dies because Chi-Yu's overheat does a bajillion damage. And so this item was definitely the best item pick. Obviously, we'll boost your bundles, like guaranteed, right? But Sash was the most clutch and the best item that we could have ever wanted for Chi-Yu. It let it survive so many hits, and it let it clean up so many end games. Sometimes you can get really cheeky in the early game where you use Bundle and Chi, you Icy Wind overheat something, your Chi goes to the Sash. You can protect Chi or swap or double swap into Dozogiri, and Chi suddenly a ridiculously strong end game next to Tatsugiri or Bundle with Icy Wind because let's say you kill the priority. And so as long as it has 1 HP, Chi can sweep through the team. And so that's why we went Sash. And then Choice Scarf on Giri. Choice Scarf on Giri combined with Boost from Bundle gives this team so much comeback potential because of how many times the move can miss, but you have so many fast Icy Winters. Even if you miss in the early game, you miss a Pump or you miss a Heat Wave. Because you have Icy Wind, as long as you have a strong special attacker in the late game, if you have an Icy Wind next to it, it can go first, and boom, it knocks out the Pokemon you need to knock out, and you're fine. And so we need the Scarf. The Scarf lets Chi-Yu hit out Draco Meteors on Pokemon next to Chi-Yu in the late game before they can attack, and Draco Meteor next to Chi-Yu is going to deal a ton of damage. I think it deals like 90% to Paladin Hero. Anything that's weak to anything that's weak to Tatsugiri is going to drop. And then Muddy Water, because Muddy Water is just a standard good move that doesn't hit our own Pokemon. And then we went with Sleep Talk, because there can be a lot of games where Palance where, okay, they kind of played super well, and you kind of played only okay. They got through your Dozo, they got the Spore off on Tatsugiri, you bring Chi-Yu out, you protect Chi-Yu, you Sleep Talk, you hit a move, doesn't matter what move. 2 out of the 3 moves are pretty good, Draco Meteor or Muddy Water. You have the Beads of Ruin, it does a bunch of damage, you just clean through the game. So Sleep Talk was super, super good. It came up multiple times in my sets. And so that's kind of why we went with those 2 items.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. You have sold me on Sash Chi-Yu. That's not the item of choice for me normally, but it seems like it's very, very powerful. And yeah, especially, it guarantees you extra Beads of Ruin turn. And with Bundle and Tatsugiri, you take advantage of that so well. And so guaranteeing yourself, 2, 3, maybe even 4 turns of Beads of Ruin seems very, very powerful on your team. And then I guess the last thing, the bundle's pretty standard. The moves in most of your Pokemon are pretty standard, but you have a couple flex slots. And so I guess the Pokemon that have options are Dragonite usually has a 4th move that it can change around, and then Dondozo has a bunch of different moves it can run. Tell me about why you chose the specific 4 moves on those 2 Pokemon.
Yeah, so Dragonite, Outrage. Outrage is a fantastic move on Choice Band Dragonite because it's really good into balance too sometimes if they don't start Fluttermane. And it's good versus matchups like Mouseape because you can just Outrage and they don't have a lot of offensive pressure on you, and you can just basically Oko them on outright. Outrage is fantastic into any semi-passive or passive start because they can't answer you, and you kind of just deal 60 to 80 or pick up a KO on the squishy. Ice Spinner was for the occasional trick rumor that we might face. Those if there was anyone still bold enough left to run in DD Armor Rage, I just wanted to make sure I didn't lose to them, and I was pretty confident as long as I got Ice Spinner off, I would win. I didn't play any, but it's still a solid stat. It's not a stat move, but it's still a solid move that you can just hit. Like it hits neutral to Flutter main, and it has choice band. So if they're a very non-bulky Flutter main, sometimes you can icy with Ice Spinner and it'll pick up. Extreme speed. I wanted something for Chien-Pao Dragonite, and so again, like Francesco said, max speed E speed will always outspeed their Dragonite because I'm pretty sure we were the only ones running max speed Dragonite in the tournament. And so also you win all the speed ties first. Arcanine, because a lot of the Arcanines are not, a fair bit of them are below our speed tier. And then we went with Earthquake because Earthquake, next to Terra Grass Lamora, you can set up your spikes while dealing a bunch of damage to your opponent. And that was something in testing that I found really useful. And so we kept it. We thought it was a solid move. I didn't use it too much in the actual tournament, but I was confident that it was a good decision going into the tournament. And then on Dozo, Wave Crash and Terra Blast, pretty standard. Terra Blast to take care of Palafins because they all decide to run Terra Water for some reason because they just think that's their good enough. It'll take care of Dozo. Nope, just Terra Blast that. Goodbye. Get that out of here. Wave Crash because it's just a ridiculously strong move that picks up Okos on so many Pokemon when you're at +2. And then Earthquake because Earthquake is a very solid move that just deals a bunch of damage neutrally to a lot of things that, maybe resist water and grass. And so, and then Protect because, Protect for leftovers. Attack, Protect, and then with the poison, just, stall it out. And so that's the reason for those four moves.
Yeah. And so one thing I will note in this tournament is that it wasn't just you guys, you four who were in the team. We also see Joan who got top 4 with the team. And I think you told me, did you guys work with him at all? Or
no,
No, we didn't. No.
He's a real nice guy. I met him out there. He goes by Dr. Necro on Showdown, and I recognized it because I was sitting down in the seats, and I was watching. You know how they have the screens for some of the regular matches, not the big stream matches, but they have like TVs for
the side streams.
The side streams. And I just looked at the side stream and I said, "Huh, that looks like our team, but none of us are playing it." And then I saw the name, Dr. Necro. And I was like, Dr. Necro? That guy took the team from me like 3 weeks ago on Showdown, and I've been playing mirrors with him like since. He obviously had a much different take on the team. He went unaware, and instead to compensate for that, he went for Terraflying D-Knight for balance. I was a bit skeptical when I first saw this. I was kind of like curious, how is he beating all of the balances with unaware Dozo and not even choice band D-Knight? I've tested it a bit now after the tournament, and I think Terraflying D-Knight's pretty good, so I see the logic there. And I mean, clearly he knew his lines really well with Terraflying D-Knight. And I mean, he did eventually lose the balance again, top 4 against Paul, and I also lost the balance. That was very clear.
Yeah, sorry, Alex. Also, Victoriots is a multi-scale Dragonite. I don't know. If I remember correctly, it was Iron Focus, right? But on Victoriot, we read multi-scale, so I don't know.
He had multi-scale, I think. Yeah, I think he had
multi-scale then. Okay,
he chose multi-scale. Right. He was testing inner focus for a bit. I
okay.
remember on ladder, but he went with multi-scale. But yeah, no, he's the same exact Chiyu bundle set. He saw the power, and I mean, it's ridiculously good. Bundle was super. Bundle along with Dozo was also very underrated going into the tournament. I think you had mentioned this on one of your previous streams. Is like Bundle had a really low usage in, I believe it was Fort Wayne. As compared to some of the other recent tournaments, but no, Bundle is a fantastic Pokemon, and it really enables the rest of the team to just completely pop off.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. You actually anticipated my question. I was going to ask what you thought of the changes that they made to your team, but you kind of already responded to that. It is kind of funny to me that not only did Carson find your team on ladder and decide to steal it before actually talking to you and working with you, but there's another player who also took it and also did extremely well with it. So I know between you and Carson, you both played a lot of ladder games, so it was definitely out there at ahead of time. But I guess it's crazy that no one, people who were interested in using Dozo seem to have picked up on it. But other than that, you were still farming everyone, so no one decided to counter you with their balance teams. And it sounds like you had, maybe other than Agati, it sounds like you had a crazy good balanced matchup throughout the tournament. So I guess on that note, tell me about your game plans and how you actually played the team, especially if you had any very specific lines that you took into some common teams you expected to face or common threats you expected to face.
Yeah, so just real quick to talk specifically what makes Bundle Chew super good is when you look at Iron Bundle, the bond is basically the fastest mon in the game, and it has good physical defense. But what it doesn't have is it just needs a little bit more damage. All right, Chiyu gives it the ability to pick up Okos with Terra's Free Strike with Hydro Pump that normally maybe only would deal 80 to 95%. What is Chiyu? A Pokemon that has ridiculous special attack. It can nuke anything it needs. What it needs is speed control. On this bundle, give it Icy Wind speed control. And so the Pokemon kind of just work together in such harmony, and also the fact that you cover all the commentary types: Water, Grass, Steel. Bundle and Chew hit them all. You hit them all with Bundle and Chew. And so yeah, that's why the Pokemon just work so well together, and just the fact that you can Icy Wind Overheat or Hydro Pump Heat Wave or Freeze Dry Heat Wave, it's just fantastic, and it's just a perfect combo that is only drawn back a little bit by the fact that you can miss, which is unfortunate. But I personally like it a lot more than Fluttermane Chew, and I think if you watch other games, even though I think the team almost only lost on stream, unfortunately, you'll see why the combo is so deadly. Yeah, so I'll mainly focus on balance. Day 1 I played versus 5 balances, day 2 I played versus 4 balances, and then obviously I played versus a balance in top 8 and top 4. So balance. How do you beat balance with this team? If you could just pull up Agati's team actually, and we can just look at it, because this is a pretty standard version of balance. So just pretend Agati didn't have clear spot, just for the viewers out there, and then I'll take you through how we approach this matchup. And so basically, Agati's team doesn't have clear spot. Their haze is on the Palafin. A very commonly that inexperienced balanced players go into our team, which was a lot of people, and not Agati, who is an amazing player, and I had very fun sets with him. They oftentimes like to lead Tinglu because they see, oh, they have Bundle Chew. If I don't lead Tinglu, they will run over the team, rightfully so. If they don't lead Tinglu, I can just Icy Wind Overheat basically any of their mons and blow them up. And then they'll also lead Palafin because their Palafin will be their haze counter, right? They want to lead Palafin, they want to pull it back in. And so they got Palafin, Tinglu, and so what we do is we just lead Bundle and Dozo. And so what does Palafin and Tinglu do versus Bundle and Dozo? And the answer is absolutely nothing. They can't do anything with Palafin, they have to pull that Pokemon back, or they protect it, right? So you kind of just ignore the Palafin. You ignore the Palafin and you focus entirely on the Tinglu. And so you have Bundle and Dozo, and so a very key, basically a super safe turn 1 is Wave Crash into Tinglu and Freeze Dry into Tinglu. And so basically they have a couple of choices they can make. They can Terra Tinglu, which is not something they want to do versus our team, because they usually want to save their Terra for their Arcanine probably, because they want to get the Wisp off. Or they can pull out Tinglu. And so what is in the back? Oh, they might have Max Combo, or they might have Fluttermane, or they might have Arcanine, or they might have Amogus. Okay, they Terra. The game is already super in our favor, because now we can just hit the Palafins, hit the Arcanines, all for the super effective damage we need. Or they swap. Freeze Dry will hit Amogus for super effective damage. Wave Crash will hit Arcanine for super effective damage. Wave Crash and Freeze Dry will Oka Fluttermanes. It is basically a play that is very, very hard to deal with a Palafin Tinglu lead. And so versus a lot of games, they would just lead Palafin and Tinglu. I would lead Bundle and Dozo, and I would just attack, and they have no answer for it. And so let's say they lead Amogus and Tinglu. Or, okay, well, I have Wave Crash, or I can swap right into Tatsugiri, Terra Grass, get a bunch of damage off. Sometimes I just protect Tinglu and just pump not protect Tinglu, protect Dozo, just pump Tinglu. It'll still deal 40 to 50. It's good. Maybe they go for a Spore and a Dozo, or they go for Spore and a Bundle. And it's just there's not a lot of counterplay to the Bundle Dozo lead with a Tinglu Palafin start or a Tinglu and passive start, because they can't put any pressure on you. And so a lot of balanced players, they'll try to switch it up, but we can switch it up too. And so if they try to switch up into a Fluttermane lead, or they try to switch up into a, like one of their, they ditch Palafin, they go for something else. Maybe they have Tinglu with Fissure, and they just stick with the Terra and the Tinglu. We have Dragonite, we can Icy Wind overheat the Flutters, and so there's a lot of ways that, if the game 1 plan is usually just lead Dozo to Bundle, they're going to lead Tinglu because they're afraid of your special attackers. Game 2, okay, they realize that doesn't work. They maybe even can't even lead Palafin anymore. And so you can send out Dragonite and Bundle, which is super good into anything but Fluttermane, because now you can, Icy Wind overheat in case, let's say they have a fast Pokemon like Arcanine, you can not overheat, icy wind outrage. You get an outrage off, you deal a bunch of damage. And so, whereas all the balance players I did, that was kind of my strategy, was just lead bundle +1, gain speed control, uh, or if I even need to, and then just hit with a strong physical attacker because I don't want to lead Chiyu because Chiyu is also often the late game sweeper because there's a strong chance they're going to Terra Grass one of their Pokemon because they don't want to take damage from Dozo. But as soon as they take Terra Grass, well, now my Chiyu suddenly set up for a fantastic endgame where it has no problem with Tinglu anymore because it's dealing super effective damage to it. Or it's no problem with Arcanine because it's dealing super effective damage to it. And so, yeah, that was basically our strategy into balance. And so you can imagine how this team can cripple without Clear Smog and Lucas. And so if you go back to top 8 again, I'll talk about one of the other teams that I think Joan actually figured out a lot better than I did personally, and that was James Evans' team. James Evans' team, just think about a Tailwind matchup. I didn't really want to run into too much Tailwind. I thought, it can be kind of annoying. He's got Bundle on his team. He's got Sacred Sword. Or doesn't have Sacred Sword, but he has Champ on his team, which is annoying. He's got Iron Hands, which is really annoying for us, and he has Will-O-Wisp Talonflame. And so, kind of my approach to this kind of matchup, because I did play rounds, I did lose. But what I think Joan found out really, really well was you actually just have to lead with the same lead as Bundle Dozo, which is kill the Talonflame. Either he tailwinds and drops the Hydro Pump, or he doesn't tailwind and he drops the Hydro Pump. So, originally in testing though, we wanted to lead like Glamora versus this and like Power Gem and maybe lead Dragonite or Bundle and just deal some chip dealer thing and have Dozo Gear in the back. But I would really recommend checking out Joan's top 8 match because it seems like by then he finally figured out the match. And even though his team is not exactly like ours, the logic still kind of stands. He had the same moves and as we did on our Dozo, even if it was a different ability, the ability of Dozo doesn't really matter in this matchup. And so that was kind of our strategy. You just as soon as we can remove Talonflame, we can deal with the rest of the Pokemon. But if he gets Will-O-Wisp into Dozo, it's so hard because a big strategy for us is we can't lead Chiyu Bundle necessarily into them because they have Tailwind, and a lot of these teams are running Pokemon like Fluttermane. And if he starts Fluttermane Talonflame, our Chiyu Bundle is just going to drop to Tailwind instantly. So we kind of have to kill the Talonflame, and by leading Bundle and Dozo, or Bundle and Glamora, or basically two Pokemon that can threaten the Talonflame and either force it to Terra, which again is good for us, or knock it out. Then we can do a lot of damage with Dozo, get through some Mons, switch Bundle out, bring Bundle Chiyu in for a late game. And that's how I would approach Tailwind, and I played a lot of Tailwinds. Not a lot, but it was the second most common form of team that I played in EUIC. I basically played first 3 Tailwinds, Balance, and then 1 Obama Snow team in day 2 actually, which was really neat. And so that's how I would approach this matchup. Is just kill Talonflame as soon as possible and have your special attackers in the back for the end game. A lot of people take the opposite approach to both these matchups. They think, I need to use my special attackers to clear the way for Dondozo. But with Oblivious Dondozo, you can be a lot more loose with it against Intimidate, and you can take knockouts early that they don't expect, and then you can have your Bundle and Chiyu in the back to just end the game. Not to say you can't start Chiyu and Bundle. They certainly are a very potent opener, but it's not a requirement.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. That's a great overview of how to play into what I think are probably the 2 most common teams in the format in like Tailwind stuff and Palance, other than maybe Dozo now, that is also, of course, picking up in popularity, but you said, wasn't really a consideration before the tournament. But were there any like individual Pokemon or combinations of Pokemon that you noticed were really difficult or required you to play in a very specific way against them?
Yeah, so I think Agati's balance team was just absolutely the worst possible balance for us. I know I used but just to put you an image of your mind of like what a balance team looks like that we can beat. But with the sets that he had, be it Clear Smog and Moongus and Clear Area Backs, well, not that Clear Area matters too much, but I can't ice even drop it. So I don't actually know if it was faster than my D-Knight, but if it was, I was not gonna hit it first. He had basically the perfect combination of balance into us. He had Baxcalibur, which is good into our Grass Dondozo. He had Clear Smog and Moongus, which is good into our Dondozo. He had Tinglu, which is good into our Chiyu Bundle, which is kind of our backup for dealing with this. And yes, our Terra Ice Freeze Dry was our strategy into Amoongus. Well, of course you're gonna face Tinglu, but yeah, Tinglu, and then you also have Baxcalibur, which can just glaive our Ice Shard our Chiyu. And then Fluttermane on top of it, it's just kind of a nightmare. He never even needed to bring Palafin and Arcanine. I think if there was one thing different about his team, if he didn't have Clear Spell on Amoonguss or he didn't have Excalibur, I think it's super beatable. But both of those Pokemon is a real big problem. When you have both Clear Spell and the Excalibur, because it just kind of pins us down. And you see in my top 4 match, I got obliterated in round, I think it was 12 or 11. Basically, my strategy going in the top 4 was I'm going to deal as much damage as I possibly can to him as fast as possible, and just kind of put him into shock, and like he just doesn't know what to do. And I almost got there in top 4. He got a double protect on Excalibur, but that was basically the only strategy I could do. And so this team right here, Bax and Clear Spell Moongus is ridiculously frustrating. And Haze Shampoo is also really annoying, but there was not a lot of that, which I think was smart. People should not put Haze on their Shampoo. I think Sacred Sword is much better coverage.
Yeah, they
It's better
just
than
get
every other
rolled by
matchup.
Chi.
Yeah.
Oh, I agree. I think that, I mean, it's funny because why would you run haze when you can just like Ruination the Dozo and then Sacred Sword it twice and you just kill it anyway, so you don't need to haze it.
Yep.
But anyways, yeah. So that's, I mean, yeah. No, we saw the matchup with the Gotti. I know that I was rewatching the sets and talking over them on stream, and we noticed at the very ending that the Fluttermane was slower than your Chi-Yu, and I think that might have made the matchup a lot easier if you know
Oh,
that. But
if I had known that, I can just click Freeze Dry into Fluttermane, forget about the Excalibur, and just kill it with 2 speeds, and then my Heat Wave would pick up.
mm-hmm.
But I didn't know that.
Yeah.
So
And I mean, that's the sort of thing that, open team sheets doesn't quite reveal. And that's, tough way tough thing to find out at the very last turn of the last game. But, it is what it is. And on that note, let's talk about the tournament run. Of course, Lex, you made it all the way to top 4. Francesco, how did you finish at EUIC?
Well, so I finished 5 and 4 at USC. That is a pretty depressing finish for me because I always aim for day 2 in this tournament. But seeing how the matches went and how it turned out, I pretty much couldn't do much more, honestly, because on round 3 I went on stream against Boyd. That was my first loss. On game 1, I got pretty lucky, but it didn't even matter because he had just Flowermane with Substitute and Brute Bonnet. And like he could have always closed the end game with one single for paralysis on my Dondozo. So it was just something that I saw coming, and so he tried to paraflinch me. I never did for 4 turns straight with Iron Head on my paralyzed Dondozo. But it didn't matter. I think it really didn't matter because Brute Bonnet plus Fluttermane closes up the game pretty much every time there. So that was game 1. On game 2, I got pretty unlucky. I got like a super bad roll on my Iron Bundle on turn 1 because it put me just barely in range of Ice Shard after the first Clay Brush. Because like turn 1 I could have gone for Terra Ice on Brute Bonnet, but I figured out like it doesn't matter if I can just go for 2 Freeze Dry straight, and he has like to pin me with Sucker Punch, so I get a turn off basically for free. So it was great. But on turn 1, I got a really bad roll by his Excalibur's Clay Rush. So the game turned out a little bit more complicated, and I also got a really bad roll with Terra Blast that was enough to KO his Gyarados with 2 Terra Blasts Grass on game 1. But on game 2, I min-rolled the first one, so I didn't pick up the KO with 2 Terra Blasts, and that made my Dondozo take much more damage from Hex from the Fluttermane. And then in the end, he got a double protect plus my full power into Dondozo, I believe. That like can happen because I was paralyzed from 4 turns. So like it's normal. But then I went for a pretty cool read, I think, on the last turn because I went for Icy Wind. I had like my Chi-Yu that was sleeping at 1 HP, and I had my Tatsugiri in the end game against his Fluttermane. So I thought like he's gonna KO my Tatsugiri because I had only 1 turn of sleep on my Chi-Yu, and next turn he can just go for Moonblast on my Chi-Yu and pick up the KO because he didn't have Dazzling Gleam. So I went for Icy Wind so that I could have dropped another sleep turn on my Chi-Yu. But unfortunately, on the 3rd turn, I slept again and I couldn't go for the Dark Pulse that would have picked up the KO, and so I lost. I think that game was pretty unfortunate on my side, but it balanced out with game one. Unfortunately, I didn't it lacked pretty much on game one, but that's also on me because I played maybe too safely in both games. So yeah,
You
but
you
I was
You've just
go ahead.
reminded me of my rewatch of this set and me just being so mad at Jamie Boyd because I thought his play at the very end of game two was awful. It was such a bad play. And he got rewarded because he got the 3 turn sleep. But I was very annoyed.
Yeah, yeah, I think there you just go for Moonblast on Tatsugiri because you think like okay, I'm faster next turn, I can pick up the KO. But I had the option to go for Icy Wind, and I thought like he's going for Moonblast on my Tatsugiri because two Muddy Waters would have picked up the KO. Then if he KOs Tatsugiri now, I lose. Anyways, doesn't matter what he goes for. So yeah, I thought it was a pretty cool move, but like it added up with the fact that I got full parad on my Dondozo back in like the last turn that he got double protect with Brute Bonnet, and I went for EQ. That actually would I pick up the KO on Brute Bonnet that took the double, but okay, you can take the double protect, doesn't matter. But I couldn't remove the substitute on Fluttermane, so that full para was huge. And like mixed with all the other bad rolls that I got was like this addition of bad RNG that I got that pretty much sums up how I lost the game too. But
Yep.
things can happen. So I was hyped for the rest of the tournament. Um, what really killed my run was round five. I was 4-1, and I was on game three against a guy, an American guy, and I went for Hydro Pump plus Wave Crash onto his Tinglu, reading the turn correctly because he had led Tinglu plus Among Us. So I thought, like, he's going for Spore because he expects my Dondozo going for Protect. So he's pouring my Iron Bundle. I read the turn correctly, but unfortunately my Hydro Pump missed, and he got the Fisher hit on turn one, so I lost my Dondozo. So a pretty sad way to lose a game three, and that put me on 4-2. That pretty much threw me off because on the next round I faced a really tough matchup that was almost unwinnable, like really tough matchup with Grass, Anchor, Iron Bundle. That was really hard for me to win with Dondozo, but I had no other way of defeating his Trollmate because he had screens, and so I lost. And the last round, I could have gotten chippies probably because my resistance was not that bad. But I faced another American player, Jeremy Rodriguez. I believe you know him. It's a
Serapis.
pretty so I lost game one because he saw I had Oblivious on my Dondozo. So his main way of dealing against my Dondozo was setting up Source Stances with King Gambit, and since he takes the Wave Crashes, he could have just gone for Terra Dark, Source Dance, and then Kotokli my Dondozo, and then like self Pollen Puff with the Among Us, and yeah, just get the cheap damage off with maybe a Protect plus Pollen Puff, so it was kind of tricky. I got the game too because I went for the play that I was telling before of Freeze Try onto Among Us plus Chiyu. And he didn't expect that because he expected my Tatsugiri coming in for Iron Bundle with Dondozo to set up the Dondozo strategy. But actually, I picked up the KO and Among Us that he didn't expect. And so I won game two pretty easily and pretty quickly. And then on game three, I got a pretty huge prediction on his leading because he went Fluttermane and Palafin, and I went Chiyu Bundle. And I went for Icy Wind plus Overheat on the Fluttermane, predicting like him for not going for Protect. So he switched into Among Us that took 40% from Icy Wind, and Overheat one-shotted Fluttermane before it could attack. So like it was a really good turn one. Then he came in the King Gambit, and obviously was going for Terra Dark to get rid of the Fire Weakness, and Source Dance, of course. So I figured that if I KO the Among Us, he's just gonna lose to Dondozo, so I think he's protecting him, and he needs it a lot for like Pollen Puff and redirecting and stuff. So I doubled the King Gambit, and I got the prediction correct. So I went for Hydro Pump plus Overheat on King Gambit, but unfortunately I double missed both of the attacks. And just getting one off meant that my Dondozo would have KO'd the King Gambit the next turn. And like he didn't have so much room of play And then the next turns was just awful because my Iron Bundle then was in range of Sucker Punch because it was Terror Alert plus 2 attack and Black Glasses too. So yeah, like getting the attacks off would have meant like me winning because I was like up for versus 0 and it didn't do any damage to my Pokemon. But just the Sucker Punch that put me in check all my Pokemons pretty much, and my Dondozo not being able to get to KO King Gambit was like what made me lose the round. That's unfortunate, but you're 5-3 and things can happen. Unfortunately, it happened, so
Hmm.
I couldn't do nothing. But I was happy about the result, and I was sure that the team was really really strong because like my losses were like pretty. Pretty winnable. Every loss was pretty winnable for me, except maybe the one around 7 against the screens, Flutterman, Iron Mountain stuff. And yeah, so I was pretty happy, and I was sure that on day 2, I didn't already know how many of us made to day 2, but then I saw that everybody did to day 2. They did make day 2, sorry. So yeah, I was sure it was gonna do great even on day 2, and yeah, it actually worked off. So I wasn't mad because like I was happy for my friends and because my team choice was right, and I also thank Lexar a lot for that because he gave me the team basically. But yeah, so it was unfortunate. Unfortunate runs can happen. Sometimes they're a bit frustrating when they happen like 2 times in a row. But what can you do? I will still keep playing the game, and it eventually will turn out good for me. So I'm not mad at all.
Yep.
It's fine.
Yeah, that's Pokemon, and especially if you are relying on, Chi-Yu that has to hit the 90% accurate moves, Iron Bundle that has to hit 80% accurate moves. It's going to happen every so often, and it's really unfortunate that it happened in maybe the most important round.
Yeah.
But yeah, and then I get Lex. You of course had a slightly better performance. Tell me about your tournament run, just a little bit better.
Yeah, I don't know.
Okay.
I did a bit well, it was a little bit of success. The team, I think, proved itself. I'll just talk about. I already kind of covered the matches I faced, like the number of matches I faced. So I'll just highlight, I think, my 2 or 3 favorite games.
Okay, yeah.
So I want to start with what I think was the craziest, most ridiculous turn one that was ever done it to me, and I was genuinely just like, oh my god, I'm going to lose this game so badly. And that was my round 13 versus Sohaib. And so I looked at Sohaib's team, and one of our Carson played him early in the tournament, and he got 2-0 by him. But I looked at his team, and I was pretty confident that I could win. I looked at his team, and I said, okay, Hands is annoying, but funnily enough, Glamora is actually good into Hands. Because Hands can't do too much damage to it, and Glamora can poison it, and even though I can't do a lot of special damage to it, I'll just wear it down. And so I started Dragonite and Glamora because, I didn't want to start my bundle at all versus the Hands. And so I just went with the OG reason I was attracted to the team. I like Glamora, and I like Dragonite. Let's just use those Pokemon. And this is the turn 1. And I don't know how Sohaib got this turn so correct, but I was not happy. So he starts Hands and Palafit, and so my thing is, okay, I think he's gonna fake out D-Knight, so I'll just swap to Dozo, take a fake out, and I'll just Mortal Spin with Glamora because there's no way he's gonna be bold enough to just Terra Water Wave Crash, and like waste the Terra on Palafit. I was wrong. So I swapped Dozo out. Not only does he not fake out, he Terra Waters, Wave Crashes my Glamora, and Wild Charges my Dozo. And so at this point, I'm just like, that's not good. I've lost Glamora. My Dozo is at 92 HP. I don't think I can win this game 1. And so I remember, Francesco, you were watching and you just walked away, I think is what you said.
Yeah, I walked away because
You saw the turn 1 and walked away.
It's over. Yeah,
and
it's over.
I thought it was over too. So I brought Dragonite back in. And he brings in Amoonguss on the next turn. So now he has Palafit in hands, and I have Dragonite and Dozo. And so on this turn, he swaps out Palafit and Amoonguss, and I just click Outrage because I don't have a choice at this point. I click Outrage and I Terra Blast the Palafit slot in case it decides to get super cheeky. Also because my Dozo's already at 92 HP, and okay, so if it takes 40 or 50 from a Drain Punch, I don't really care at this point. It's kind of already dead. I kind of got to win this game with Dragonite. Now the hands did take a lot of chip. And so my outrage, I don't actually know if the crit mattered. It crit the hands. It was already had taken probably like 50, 60 damage from chip because those has a lot of HP and it takes like 30%, right? For wild charge. And I know outrage does a lot of damage. It luckily killed the hands. And I said, okay, that's good. And I Terra Blasted a Mooka swap, so nothing happened there. So the next turn, I just protect my Dozo, and because I'm outraged, I'm locked in outrage. So I outrage again. I outrage into an Arcanine protect. So okay, that's fine, whatever. Kind of a nothing turn. I forget if he scores or not. And so next turn I go, okay, now that I've hit the Arcanine, it stops the outrage stuff. It confuses it or whatever. And so now I have a decision. Okay, he has an Arcanine who can't protect again, and a Palafin in the back, and an Amogus that can't Spore or Rage Powder. So I can either Wave Crash this Arcanine, or I can Terra Blast this Arcanine thinking Palvin's going to come in. And so what happens is if I Wave Crash the Arcanine and Palvin comes in, next turn, he can protect Palvin, and then I have to make another prediction on Amoongus, to see if that's going to swap into Arcanine. And if he protects Palvin and gets Palvin and Arcanine on the same field, he can then both Haze and Will-O-Wisp, and then I'm kind of screwed. So I just make the play that I say, okay, I'm going to win the game or lose the game this turn. I Terra Blast the Arcanine swaps out to Palvin, it blows it out, and I'm like, yes, okay, game is over. And then he brings Arcanine back in, and then I just go for a Wave Crash, and eventually I get it, and then, so game 1 ends, game 2 versus Soheim, so I'm like, I'm feeling pretty good now. I'm like, okay, that was the worst possible turn 1. There is no way, as long as that doesn't happen again, I definitely have game 2 in the bag, because if I won with that bad of a turn 1, I can win with anything game 2. Soheim, I think, like, he just was in my head the entire series, and I think this was a series that I just kind of had a little bit of Pokemon's favor on, because I ended up where it was a late game where it was Chiyu and Giri versus Hands and Amoonguss, and I bundle them back, but it's still not great because I can't deal with Hands that much, because I have my Dozo's gone, and so I was just so convinced that this Amoonguss was protecting, and I was also convinced that Muddy Water plus Overheat was going to pick up Hands at the HP it was. Not only did the Amoonguss not protect, it did not pick up the Hands, and so Amoonguss got away with like 2 non-protects in a row, and my team just never attacked it because I was like, it's got to protect eventually. It just never protected. It got like a Spore off, it got like a Pollen Puff off, and I'm just like, oh my goodness. Eventually, it did have to Rage Powder though, otherwise the Overheat would have killed the Iron Hands with the chip that it was at, even though it was -2. So I was able to kill the Amoonguss in. So I bring Bundle in, so now I have a Sleeping Tatsugiri and a Bundle against the 50% HP Hands. Hydro Pump does not kill a Hands at 50% HP, but I think to myself, okay, if I just pump, and he's probably going to attack on the Giri though, right? Because I'm clearly going to protect Bundle. I pump, he does not attack the Giri. He just Drain Punches my Amoonguss. I'm like, oh my god, this guy is in my head. Everything has gone wrong. But important note is on the first Muddy Water, Tatsugiri got an accuracy drop. So I got an extra drop. So my Giri wakes up on turn, the first turn I can possibly wake up. I get another Muddy Water in. It gets accuracy drop number 2. He goes for Wild Charge. Bam, doesn't hit. Like, okay. I go for another Muddy Water. It hits. He goes for another, it doesn't kill, because now it's 1 Muddy Water per game. He goes for another Wild Charge. Bam, doesn't hit. I'm like, okay. We won. As long as this Muddy Water hits. And the Muddy Water hits, I'm like, nice. And then I text the group chat, 2-0 Soheim. And Francesco's like, what? How did you...
Yeah, I was like, okay, so you won game 2 and game 3, right? You went to game 3, so how did you lead? Like, how did it play out?
And Carson was confused because he got 2-0, and I'm just like, it's fine. And then Julio was a really great top 8 match. I got absolutely bodied by Julio in rounds. He was my round 14 and top 8 match, so we kind of played back to back. I think it really worked out in my favor that I lost the round 14 and got to play him in top 8 and not the other way around, because I had a much different strategy going to my top 8 match. I basically said to myself, okay, Dragon Dance, Terraflying, Dragonite is too much for Dondozo to deal with, even without, Haze or Clear Smog. It is just a very good call. So, game 1, I just said to myself, I'm going to click Terra Normal, and I'm going to E-Speed every single one of his Pokemon, and if he puts Chien-Pao in the field, it's just going to help me, and he's going to have to deal with it. And I just kind of kept E-Speeding him. My Glamora was good in the Chien-Pao here. He didn't have Tinglu. So there was no ground move to just Oko my Glamora. And eventually we got into a game where I read the Terra Ghost on Chien-Pao, I pumped it and E-Speed the Bond next to it. And then eventually it was a game where, yes, I had a sleeping Pokemon, but I had Cicciott with a Sash that just pulsed the Chien-Pao, and I was like, nice, got game 1, got him on that. And game 2, I thought, okay, he is going to be terrified of this Dragonite now that it just ran over his entire field. So he's going to lead Arcanine, and I'm going to lead Iron Bundle and Chi-Yu, and he's going to be real sad because Arcanine is not a good lead, especially because his is Terra Grass. And so uh, he leads Arcanine and Among Us versus my Chi-Yu and Bundle, and I'm sitting pretty at this point because he's got a Terror, he's got a Protect, and basically when people lead Arcanine into Iron Bundle and they have an Amoonguss, I thought to myself, what is the last thing that he will expect me to do? And the last thing that he'll expect me to do is just Hydro Pump his Arcanine on turn 1. And that's what I did. And he protects the Amoonguss. He just goes for an attack with Arcanine. I land Pump, immediately kill the Arcanine, and now I'm feeling really, really good. I have so much momentum. It's a 4v3. I have Chi-Yu Bundle. There's not much. I'm expecting Dragonite and Chien-Pao to be in back because that was what he would brought the other 2 games. Every single set he always brought Dragonite and Chien-Pao into me. Dragonite comes out. I'm like, okay, well he has a Amoonguss and a Dragonite into Chi-Yu and Bundle. He has to Terra something now because he can't take a ×4 Freeze Dry or Icy Wind into Dragonite. So it Terra's Dragonite, Terra Flying. I just go for Icy Wind Heat Wave because I think it's pretty safe. Just to get a lot of chip onto the Dragonite. And then this is where the game starts getting real dicey. I missed the Heat Wave on the Amoonguss, and so I only get a little bit of chip. He sleeps my Chi-Yu, he Terra Blasts my Iron Bundle, and then E-Speeds it in Palm Puffs. So I bring in my own Dragonite. I Terra Normal Ice Spinner his Dragonite to pick it up. My Chi-Yu sleeps for a second turn, because the other turn before was the E-Speed. And so now he has Chien-Pao and Amoonguss. And so on the turn I Ice Spinner, he spored my Dragonite. So I have 2 Pokemon that are asleep, and he's got Chien-Pao and Amoonguss. So now I just go for Ice Spinner onto the Amoonguss, of course, and my Tatsugiri, my Chi-Yu sleeps for a 3rd turn. I'm like, okay, that's fine, I understand. So he Sacred Swords Palm Puffs my Chi-Yu and knocks it out. So then I bring in my tech though. I thought about it in game. I bring in Solo Dondozo. Solo Dondozo is super good at Chien-Pao because Chien-Pao cannot hit it with anything. And so turn 1 he has to protect Amoonguss because if I get a Wake on Dragonite, he loses immediately. Because it's the only turn because he needs to get 2 Sacred Swords into it. So I get a Wave Crash into his Chien-Pao, and so he Sacred Swords once on my Dragonite. It's just Terra Normal, so it deals about half. And so then I know he's just gonna kill my Dragonite. And he has to Rage Powder because if I Wave Crash, then it's my Dondozo versus Amoonguss, and I'm gonna win that. So I just click Earthquake, so I bring it into red, and so now my Dragonite falls. He's got Amoonguss at like 40% HP, and Chien-Pao at like 20% in Earthquake range. And so there's a decision. I can either think he's gonna protect and Spore, and I protect, and then I win, or he's gonna protect my protect, and he's gonna Palm Puff his Chien-Pao. And I have been in this situation way too many times on ladder where they all get cheeky and they're like, oh, the Dondozo's just going to protect. But I didn't protect. I just clicked Earthquake. He went for Sacred Sword Palm Puff. Boom, 2-0, and I was like Cloud9 after the 3-turn sleep, and we got him, and it was sick. It was a sick series. Francesco, you and Carson both watched it. It was I think it was pretty.
Yeah.
Really glad I could pull one through for the group and make top 4 with the team at my first tournament. It was just a really, 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 really fun way to just. It was a great. I had a lot of fun in the series. Julio probably did it, but I thought I played probably the best set of Pokemon I ever had in top 8. And then I did my damnedest to give you guys a good series in top 4, because of how bad the matchup was. And then I guess the other highlight of the tournament was I did get to play Aaron Cybertron Zhang, who used to play TCG back in the day, and I'm from Jersey, so I literally used to play TCG against him way back when. So for my first tournament, we're both 5-1. And we came down to game 3, a really close set. And, I had missed 3 to 4 pumps on day 1, so I guess to make up for it, the tournament decided that I could get a crit against him. Of course, against Aaron of all people. I could have still won without it. I'll just make that clear. I could have still won the game without the crit, but it would have been a lot closer. My -2 Chi-Yu decided to just boom something. And so that was the other highlights for it. But yeah, my match against Ohio was very, very crazy, and then my match against Julio was super hype. And so those really my 2 highlights of the tournament. And then my matches versus Gotti, where he absolutely bodied me in round 12 or 11, and then top 4, which was significantly closer, are on YouTube or Twitch, which you guys can watch if you are interested. They're pretty good sets, actually, so I would check them out. Well, don't check out the first one. Check out the second one.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was so fun.
Yeah, it was really great to watch you watch your sets and hear about your run. I mean, a really really incredible run for your first tournament in years with a really really cool team. You really just like had the meta call. It feels like where you knew exactly what was going to be common and you beat the two most common teams. And so this really shook up what people think. People thought, oh, it's been one tournament, the meta's getting stale, and you not single-handedly, you four really shook up the metagame in a way, and I'm really excited to see how you continue to innovate Dondozo moving forward. But yeah, again, congratulations on your run. I definitely recommend everyone tries this team out. The rental code is on screen, and the paste will be in the description down below. Did you guys have any final words or shoutouts that you wanted to give?
I want to give a shout out again to Asuya that helped me getting the team ready in game, and also helped me with some decisions. Sorry, cut this out. Cut this out. Okay,
You can start
fourth
over if you
time.
want.
Yeah, for the fourth time is the good one. Sorry, I found. Okay, sorry. So I want to give a shout out to Asuya that helped me getting the team ready in game, and he also watches all your videos. So he'll be pretty surprised to see me here because I didn't tell him. I wanted it to be a surprise. And also to all the guys from Italy, from my team, Team Aqua, that supported me during the tournament. My brother and cousin that were there with me, that made the trip super fun, and also support me after the result. And then the biggest shout out is to Alex that gave me the team and that also pulled off an amazing result. And to the other guys, Chapa and Carson, that also helped us during the preparation for the tournament.
Yeah, I second everything Francesco just said. I really want to give a big shout out first to Choppa. Um, Basically, I just decided one day, I said, okay, I'm gonna go back to tournaments. I don't know what I'm doing well enough to just go into these without a little bit of help. And Choppa literally just tweeted about offering coaching, and I had watched Choppa multiple times on the stream, so I was a big fan of watching Pokemon tournaments again. And so I said, hey, yeah, I would like some coaching, but I cannot do anything casually, so I'm very, very serious. So he was he was very enthusiastic to work with me. He introduced me to all these people before my first tournament. I mean, he introduced me to Carson, he introduced me to Francesco. He tweaked the team. He was messaging us constantly, as was Carson and Francesco. And it was just amazing just to have such a supportive coach that not only like really helped me just really make my fundamentals what they were, because you can have a great team, but if you have bad fundamentals, it doesn't matter. My fundamentals were as good as they could possibly be going into the tournament, you know? And so that would only be possible with Chupa. I mean, we went over tons of replays. He played a bunch of sets with me the week of, and he introduced me to Carson and Francesco. And big shout out to Carson. I'm so glad that he took my team off of Showdown. This is why you should accept Open Team Sheet, guys, because if you accept Open Team Sheet, people might steal your team and then work with you on it because they think it's so good. That's definitely the reason, not because of anything else.
Mm-hmm.
And so Carson, next to me, had the most Showdown games possible played. I know I did. For those of you wondering, real quick, how I played that many Showdown games, I'm just very fortunate to currently be on a gap year between college and work. And so I basically was just kind of spending time with a new dog I got, and I wanted to get back in Pokemon, so I just had a lot of time, and I just decided, I'll practice. I'll just keep practicing. And I just kept practicing, and suddenly I had 3,000 games on Showdown. I don't know what to tell you guys. That is how I got to that number. Carson had around 1,000 games, which is also a lot. So to get between the two of us, we had around 4,000 games on the team, and so we knew the team was good. And then Choppa and Francesco, they helped us refine it. Carson, big shout out for the Terra Ice. That was his recommendation. I was a big Terra Ghost bundle person, but nope, he's completely right. I think I Terra bundle maybe the second or third most on the team after Dragonite and Dondozo. And so, yeah, and then Francesco, big shout out to you, man. You were super supportive at the tournament. You were so nice. He was rooting for me against the only other Italian left in Top Cut. He helped me prep.
No, don't say.
Okay. He was not rooting for me. He was not rooting for me. He actually really wanted me to lose. But no, he was super supportive. He's been a great friend that I made. We've been talking on Discord, basically every other day since the tournament. Planning for future events and helping the other guys for future events. And then I want to give a big shout out to Neil VGC because when the first YouTube channel I watched, when I looked for videos on VGC, Neil's channel came up, and so he's a really nice guy, and I just learned a lot of the original stuff before I went to Chubb and started learning from him. All of the stuff I like learned about VGC and like how you play, how you team build, what's good in the meta, um, was basically from him, and so I really recommend checking his stuff out. I love that guy. He's great. And so yeah, and then I guess shout out to my parents for being supportive because they also were in the Pokemon community way back when I was a TCG player, when I was a little kid, and so they've always been very supportive of my Pokemon career, if you will. Um, and then shout out to everyone else I met at EUIC if I forgot to say stuff, or George Champ Brian, Death Described to you on Ladder. You're a really cool dude. I was glad I got to talk to you. And so yeah, and then all my opponents, they were all super nice to me. I think the VGC community is so nice. Not to say the TCG community isn't, but they're just very welcoming. Like even after losses and defeats, they were just very humble. And yeah, my next event would probably be Hartford. And so I'm looking forward to meeting more people there and to continue working with people like Chopper Carson and Francesco and other people that I'm meeting. And so yeah, it's just overall, I'm really excited to play a few more events this season. I'm super excited to go to Worlds. Playing Worlds in Japan is like a dream that I could have had in TCG, and so the fact that it's happening so soon, right when I come back, is great. And I Francesco, I know you're gonna get your invite. You're almost there. And yeah, so it's absolutely great, and I am looking forward to meeting everyone that I haven't met in person yet, and to keep playing, and I'll take it even more seriously next season. So yeah, thanks.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that. I don't know how you can take it more seriously given your incredible performances already, but I'm looking forward to seeing you in Japan as well. And thank you so much for sharing your team. Really appreciate it. It's such a cool team, and I'm glad that now everyone has the opportunity to try. I know you said you're also doing a report on Victory Road, so looking forward to that as well for even more insight onto how to use the team, about your tournament. Yeah, thank you and congratulations again. And until next time, I will see you all later.